Now, I was wrong when I said I thought that the public confidence in Elon would be undermined because everyone would see how fucking narcissistic, thin-skinned, and stupid he is after purchasing Twitter and making a fool of himself over and over again with unlimited right-wing sentiment. Turns out the reality is, no, people are just as stupid, and they went along with everything he did and said by saying, no, he's brilliant, no, he's brilliant. Having said that, the association with Trump has finally set in this negative association also, with Elon Musk and the Sig Heiling.
And it was it was also, by the way, like,
holy, that is so crazy. So there is also the layoffs that have climbed in February to the highest level since the pandemic. And that is not even taking into account like the other additional layoffs that might happen because of the Doge cuts that are happening, even though they've said that they're going to scale those back now, because everything that this administration does is just break things first and then ask for forgiveness later, or just like try to piece it back together later with not much thought given to it at all.
The unemployment report is giving us a fuller picture of the job market under the Trump administration. Meanwhile, new figures show layoffs reached the highest levels last month since the height of the COVID pandemic. Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is with us. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning to you, Adriana. Okay, so today's jobs report missed expectations slightly, but showed a labor market relatively unchanged in regards to hiring. So we saw 151,000 jobs added last month, and the unemployment rate ticked up slightly to 4.1%. The sectors with the biggest gains included healthcare, finance, and transportation, whereas federal employment dropped by 10,000. That likely reflects some.
Did you see that?
Excuse me. How else are people going to understand how to do a job search?
That's my favorite job search website.
This is what my haters should be doing, okay? This. Find a job. You understand me? That's what you need. Find job and then find God.
Actually, wait, no. This is actually, you're doing deceptive, subtle programming to radicalize your audience into getting a damn job.
Yeah, that's what get a job.
Dropped by 10,000. That likely reflects some of the Doge cuts, but the bigger impact will be seen in the next two job reports. However, February layoffs paint a different picture, reaching the highest level in nearly 5 years. A new report from placement firm Challenger Gray & Christmas shows employers cut just over 172,000 jobs last month. That is a 245% increase from January. So 1/3 of those layoffs come from the government sector, as this data does reflect more of those Doge cuts. The retail and tech sectors also did big layoffs. The takeaway, the hiring picture hasn't changed drastically, but layoffs are increasing. Concern is brewing with tariffs and a pullback in consumer spending. So these next couple jobs report, that's going to be where you look for that.
God, I just feel for all those people who are now without work, looking for work. So those tariffs are definitely a concern. How could that impact the unemployment rate?
So you could see it go up, because if a business has increased costs due to tariffs, they might have to lay off some people. And also, if they pass it on to the consumer, maybe prices increase, people don't spend as much, and the business doesn't do as well, so they also have to lay off some people.
When Donald Trump won November's election...
I love the title. Is Trump crashing the U.S. economy?
Is Trump crashing the U.S. economy?
The answer is yes.
Financial markets seemed almost as pleased as his supporters, anticipating a Wall Street-friendly administration. A Trump bump sent the S&P 500 up 2.5% after polling day, a rally that continued right through to mid-February in a peak of 6.3% higher. But since then, uncertainty about his economic plans, specifically the cost of those tariffs, have caused a Trump slump, with all the gains since Election Day handed back. Now, that slump has accelerated in this last week of unpredictability. On Monday, Trump confirmed that tariffs against China, Mexico and Canada would be implemented. The market fell. On Tuesday, the tariffs began. Trump warned...
Trump bump to Trump slump.
Yeah, this is Sky News, Murdoch media. They're doing good work here.
Of a little disturbance in his address to Congress. But on Wednesday, he paused the tariffs after the car industry lobbied him to hold back. But a day later, facing threats of retaliation, he paused the levies on Canada and Mexico entirely for a month. All bumps in the road, but in the same direction. down. And that's because the tariffs are costly and disruptive and aimed at America's three biggest trading partners. Mexico has a total of $840 billion of goods traded with the US, Canada $761 billion, and China $582 billion. Now, these are total imports and exports, but the US has trade deficits with all three. That means it imports more than it exports, and it is that which irks Donald Trump, who believes it is fundamentally unfair.
This has been very unfair. Our country, from an economic standpoint, a financial standpoint, and a trade standpoint, has been absolutely ripped off by almost every country in the world. Canada, Mexico, and then you just go right down the line.
Now, if these tariffs were to be sustained, they would come at a price for consumers. This chart shows market expectations for inflation in the US, and you can see it's rising. Now, if we add a line for Europe, we can see the gap between the two has widened. In fact, it's at its largest in 3 years. And anecdotally, US businesses, including the retail giant Target, are warning of price rises. And there are also some early indications that growth may be slowing. This is from the Atlanta Federal Reserve. It's their best assessment of the economy.
There has been like a bunch of other estimates that have come out that project like GDP. The left-wing economist J.W. Mason has some stuff on his blog about this, which suggests that like this specific forecast, like this is the most doom and gloom one that's been publicized. It goes viral on Twitter. It may not be like it's what it shows is different enough from other ones that it may be worth taking with like a grain of salt, which is to say that like the economy do be seeming like it's slumping, like things are deteriorating. The stock market sell-off is itself a reflection of this for sure.
And the stock market itself is like the final the final bastion. It's not necessarily indicative when it's up. It's not indicative of the broader economy, especially for the average American laborer doing well.
No doubt. And moreover, that like even
when it's doing poorly, yes, you will feel it because the gains are privatized, the losses are always socialized.
Well, and in this instance, what's happening is that like you now see though that like it's because the shock is what it is, and that like we're not totally sure. Like it's put it this way, right? Like it's not immediately clear, not so evident just how bad things are. Like this projection even exists though, and is being released by a Federal Reserve Bank to be put on TV suggests that the news isn't good. But it's not that bad. A 2.5% shrink in the Q1 of Trump's presidency may be a little bit like too much doom to be credibly wishing for. Like it may not be totally plausible.
Yeah.
Economy today, and it suggests the economy is actually in reverse, shrinking by minus 2.4%. Now, these are not official national figures, but they indicate the jeopardy here for Donald Trump because he promised the precise opposite. Now, Donald Trump has a mandate for tariffs, and for now, he might be using them primarily for political leverage. But if this market downturn lasts and his popularity suffers, we'll find out just how beautiful he thinks tariffs really are.
Damn. They're putting stank on it,
They
dude.
really are. Like that was
They're doing doo-doo.
I will say though that's like the kind of broadcast that like it has like a little spice, a little pizzazz, a little like motion, you know? Like Americans should pay attention to that. American broadcasters learn a thing or two from our cousins.
It was like here is so fake. Look at this. Elon Musk is now $122 billion poorer than he was at his post-election peak due to Tesla stock plummeting.
It's like this is where though it's like money being fake thing. It's like I do wonder like what effect does this have on like his life in any way? In the same way that like quote unquote buying Twitter for $44 billion, like did it have any like? It's hard for me to it's so.
Money. This is
it's impossible to conceive.
This is the fakest money has ever been throughout the history of currency. There's nothing faker than this, dude. Oh no, he lost $121 billion from eliminated from his net worth because it's like directly tied to his Tesla stocks, and Tesla stocks took a shitter. Why are they so high to begin with? You know,
it has also like this quality to it of how. Because Tesla is like a particularly weird stock, and that there's like all of these trades that involve Tesla stock and options and all these other like it also feels like strange that this guy who's like, I mean, look, he is the protagonist of reality at the moment. It just can't be denied that like the vicissitudes of that stock price, that he's now the one running and ruining our government. Like it's just, it all makes too much goddamn horrible sense.
Yeah. This also is an interesting point from Libophonics, who is the #1 Elon rider in the chat. As someone with an ear towards the Tesla community, what a way to present that. Present your background there. I can tell you that the uptick of vandalism and hatred of Teslas is turning a tide. Driving a Tesla is now genuinely a scarlet letter in many parts of the U.S.
It is true.
Yeah.
He really,
especially the Cybertruck. If you have a Cybertruck, it's getting vandalized 100%.
That's been my take, is that like basically the Tesla vandalism, the Tesla hate would actually be even worse were it not for the fact that there is one car in the lineup that, as I've called it, is like the sin eater. It is the scapegoat.
Everyone
for the rest
is
of
everyone
them.
is just like too busy shitting on the Cybertruck that they don't come after like the other, like the Model Y or whatever. Straight up. And it's like I called the guy a Nazi for driving one. It felt great. Yeah. And like people are vandalizing the Teslas. People are vandalizing like Tesla stations as well. I'm obviously not going to say this is a good thing. I don't think this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Well, you
I'm not
see
saying
that thing that we also think is not a good thing. You see what happened in France?
Yeah.
That we especially don't think is a good thing.
Yes, I will show you more of this thing that I don't think is good. Info, la dépêche. A Tesla dealership set on fire. 12 cars destroyed. At least 700 euros of damage. But that's just France, though. They love doing that shit.
They love doing that.
Yeah.
And we don't support it.
There are some here in New York City. I'm personally seen a couple with multiple bags of dog poop on them.
I live in Manhattan, and there's a couple in my neighborhood, and I've seen one of them like look like it was the owner just had to do something to clean it up. But you see, I mean, I've seen them since being in LA. I've seen like at least a half dozen. I mean, they're really fucking, the headlight, that stupid fucking bright headlight that they have is really visible at night. But it is like, I mean, yeah, it's like a giant sore thumb traveling the streets. You just spot it immediately.
Yeah, Tesla sales in Germany, sales plummeted 76%, down 26%, down 26% in February. Norway, nearly 50% decline. Sales dropped 48% in Denmark. Sweden, sales fell 42%. They're faking sales in Canada. What does that mean? Suspicious Tesla surge triggers Canadian government investigation.
Oh my God. Wow. That's like now, it's today.
Also, the other side of this story is that Tesla took out Hertz. Like Tesla literally took out an entire rental car company. If you remember, Tesla was saved by during COVID. Tesla was saved by the rental company Hertz. They went and they bought like a shit ton of their stock, like a shit ton of the Teslas, and they're just, no one wants them. Like no one wants to rent them. Hertz is a car rental company. You haven't heard about this?
No, I mean, I will say that like I recently rented an EV from Hertz and it was a pain in the balls, but like not the EV part, the Hertz part, but like I am kind of curious that like I vaguely remember this stuff. I mean, I remember Hertz was in trouble. They declared bankruptcy.
Wait, where is it? I thought that there was, there's a Tesla fire sale happening at Hertz right now because the depreciation is like destroying them. Because one, nobody wants to get I'm getting Nazi salutes from Subarus. Tesla drivers targeted.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
I'm getting Nazi salutes from Subarus. I'm getting Sig hails from GMC drivers.
Yeah, they're like tagging it with swastikas and stuff. Hertz's pioneering of EVs as rental cars seem foolproof. Less maintenance and a lower total cost of ownership are two things that our company competing in the rental spaces thrives for. But as Hertz quickly found out, its grand experiment went horribly wrong.
The goal is sell off at least 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like
part of it is because there is no broad EV infrastructure in place.
Like the reason is like, so I rented a Polestar from Hertz.
Yeah.
Got a flat tire like a half mile outside of the
off the
lot. Yeah. I mean, which is clearly like that's not Polestar's fault, but like, yeah, no, it's also people don't. I mean, I'm kind of curious what the logic was in the first instance because like people rent cars largely because they put miles on them, and like the one thing that like electric cars are kind of difficult to do with right now in the American context is put a lot of miles on them, do road trips and what. Oh, the Toyota one's a pretty good joke.
Mazda.
Those are pretty good.
That's funny.
Oh my God.
No, this is fake. There's no way this is real. There's no way this is real. Dude, what a fine.
I have to believe that's like I mean, that feels very like like my friend Willie has a joke like very Republici Americi. Like when you like this is like the kind of thing that we used to make fun of like people in Poland for doing on the internet like 10 years ago, but now it's us.
We are Turkifying this country at an alarming rate, and it's becoming more. And what is more Turk than Balkan nations? Okay, this is the United States is becoming more Balkan every single day. Okay, straight up. Yeah, Mardi Gras parade had a Cybertruck. Everyone started dumping trash on it. That was funny too.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
There's a footage of that one, or at least a photo.
It's sounding like Tesla's trying to cook their books and abuse Canadian tax credits due to declining sales and the EV tax credit running out of money soon.
I will say, like, I wrote for Vice News 8 years ago a story about like how basically like there were people at that time. This is 2017 when there was like another round of like Tesla may be bankrupt, because Musk had just organized that merge with Solar City, which is another one of his companies. And he essentially used Tesla to bail it out.
Yeah.
But like there were tons of, like Tesla says for years, like there used to be a whole community on Twitter, Tesla Q, that was obsessed with short selling Tesla because of these long standing concerns about accounting fraud. In fact, I interviewed a guy who used to run, he was one of the biggest short sellers on Wall Street, and he's retired now more or less. But like he made it, he was fixated on Tesla as like the big kahuna, of short selling targets. And it does strike me that it's been able to like ride many different storms, many different production cycles since then. But I don't know how they wriggle out of this one. It does seem like
it's because, first of all, I've literally said this since the Twitter buyout. It is because Tesla, obviously, you have the regular interpretation of the stock. It's a tech company. It's not a car company. So it's 10x the stock valuation of like normal car companies, whatever. That sort of bullshit plays a role in this. But it's because there are far too many people with vested financial interests who are very powerful to make sure that the stock continues performing the ways that it does. But also, Tesla stock is associated with a key man, Elon Musk. So as long as Elon Musk can get up there on stage every single quarter at conferences and lie about what Tesla is going to do in the future, even if he never actually follows through on those promises, even if he's just straight up lying, okay, Tesla stock always went up. But what the downside of that is, the moment that your key man's credibility and confidence evaporates, the whole thing falls apart.
It's a good way of looking at it, because it also like helps explain. And by the way, like what Hasan is saying is, if you read the financial statements, you read analyst notes about Tesla stock, which obviously change from report to note, but like a lot of them have like consistent pieces of information that they use to explain why a stock is a buy, a hold, a sell rating, whatever. And consistently, one of the like the main things that you use for everything that is a Musk related company is that Elon Musk is an asset, that his name, affiliation, being on the CEO, being like on the board, whatever it is a reason to just like treat a company as being worth so much more than it is.
Yeah,
it's a signal. And that is, it's like, you can call it carnival barking to a point, but it's like if he died tomorrow, yeah, like you could credibly assume that the values of all these different companies, I mean, perhaps SpaceX being the most insulated for a bunch of different reasons, but the value of a bunch of these companies would like go to zero. XAI, Tesla, etc. Zero, but you get it.
I will say this though. Obviously, there's other market factors as well that play a role in this. In terms of like Tesla's stock kind of taking hits over time, one of which is obviously the mass production of electric vehicles from other car manufacturers that have significantly better procurement strategies, that have better builds overall, right? Because like Tesla ultimately is kind of dog shit too. But that has also played a role in this as well. But the most significant aspect is Elon Musk. Now, I was wrong when I said I thought that the public confidence in Elon would be undermined because everyone would see how fucking narcissistic, thin-skinned, and stupid he is after purchasing Twitter and making a fool of himself over and over again with unlimited right-wing sentiment. Turns out turns out the reality is no, people are just as stupid, and they went along with everything he did and said by saying no, he's brilliant. No, he's brilliant. Having said that, the association with Trump has finally set in this negative association
Also,
with
like,
Elon Musk and the Sig Heiling.
And it was it was also, by the way, like inevitable in that, like, you know, electric cars have been marketed, and Elon Musk's company, like, you know, like they arose and developed like their market segment in years when, you know, having an electric car was a pretty lib coded thing.
Yeah.
Like he built a customer base of libs.
That's the other. That's the other thing.
He became like the world's like most annoying Republican.
Yeah,
like
and,
you do the math on that.
And that's the other side of the story, which is that the base, the customer base that he tried to build for himself, he thought maybe he could expand on it because like liberals love EVs, liberals love you know, renewable energy or whatever. And he thought maybe in his mind, because he's a fucking moron, that he could get the Republicans on board with Teslas as well. But all he did was agitate libs into selling their fucking Teslas, while also simultaneously trying to penetrate a market that would not, under any circumstance, buy any electric vehicle, let alone a Tesla. Okay?
Well,
That's
this is
it.
why, like, and the big test of that, by the way.
Okay, Pramia Jayapal is taking notes. Okay. Trans kids didn't hike your rent. Billionaires did. Immigrants didn't make your groceries more expensive. Billionaires did. Federal workers didn't take away your health care. Billionaires did. Okay. At least some Democrats are.
Somebody at least can string a sentence together. 3 of them in this case.
That's a bar for
6,
bar.
actually.
These are bar for bar, verbatim. I'm ghostwriting. That's a staffer watching you for sure? No, probably not. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they came up with that on their own. Okay.
The other thing that was like when Ford unveiled the Ford Lightning, you know, like this like F-150 with a battery that could like power a house. Like that car is extremely cool. It's crazy. I mean,
the F-150. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little too damn big in my opinion, but it gets at like, okay, if there's anybody who's going to be able to like you know, like chudify the electric car, the thought to me was always going to be like, oh yeah, it would be like whoever does like the F-150 electric. But like even that's not like proven to be, I mean, like it's popular and it's in demand, but like clearly it's like the Cybertruck that has emerged as like something like that, and it's like been to the detriment of the rest of the lineup and to the idea of like flipping people on buying EVs to begin with. Because like I imagine that there probably is like some segment of asshole out there who doesn't really want an EV but wants a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Oh, true. The GMC Hummer EV is the Chud EV, especially because it has that stupid ad.
Like, oh my god, it's so sick.
It can like move.
It can crab walk.
It can crab.
I love that. If it wasn't so if it wasn't such a monstrosity, like oh man,
it wasn't such a monstrosity. It wasn't like 2000s conservative, like like boomer con coded. It wasn't also like, to me, like I see the crab walk thing though, and I'm like, is that just like an advertisement for not being able to parallel park?
Bro, don't send me up lovely tweets, please. While I got fucking anti-Semitism crosshairs on me. Okay, god damn, I'm gonna get my fucking. That's it. Someone's gonna clip that and just be like, dude, see, he briefly saw up lovely tweet. That means, you know, I'm not saying he's anti-Semitic, by the way. I'm just simply saying that people will use that against me and this community.
Yup.
That is a ridiculous article title, though. To be fair,
I didn't even see it because I don't. My eyes don't glaze anything.
No. E.F. Lovely is not anti-Semitic. I'm not
Obviously,
saying that.
He's but I'm
yeah.
Anyway,
a lot of the EV charging infrastructure in America was built by Volkswagen as a consequence of the Dieselgate controversy. So I don't think they really fully asked it. And I'm not aware of anyone else doing large-scale EV infrastructure in the U.S. No, they're shutting off EV infrastructure.
I mean, I recently had this experience where like I rented this car and I had to drive 250 miles 2 ways and like use it, finding superchargers, etc. It wasn't difficult, and I was in a pretty rural area. But like you also see though how like Rivian's got chargers, Tesla's got chargers. Like there is like this like incomplete, patchy quality to it that is like again segmented by brand.
God damn, dude. Holy shit.